I don't usually do serious conversations on this channel. This is meant to be, the light, breezy, relaxed part of what I do for a living. And if circumstances were different in my life in general, I might make a main channel video out of what I'm about to talk about. I'm not going to for a couple of reasons, mostly logistical. I'm recording this on Friday, the 29th, and tomorrow, which is when I plan to release what I'm now shooting, I'm not going to be home. I'm going to some Pride celebrations. So I don't want this to disrupt the life that I try to have. And while under other circumstances, I might wait a week and make it a main channel video later, the specifics make me want to get this out now. And I feel like that timing kind of matters. So Russell T Davies, obviously best known to the kind of folks who watch my stuff as the showrunner for the initial revival of Doctor Who in 2005 and of the 60th anniversary specials with David Tennant as the 14th Doctor and the 2 seasons of Ncuti Gatwa as the 15th Doctor. I'm giving you that for reference because that's the main reason the man's on my radar in general, but he's done a lot of other stuff, some of which I've seen, a lot of which I haven't. He kind of really started to get noticed with his work on Queer as Folk, a show that would later get an American remake, which also proved pretty successful. I saw his miniseries, It's a Sin. I did a review actually on the main channel because I was really impressed with that piece. He has tackled LGBTQIA plus issues and stories very directly at various points in the past. And he has I believe it's a limited series coming out tomorrow on Channel 4 in the UK called Tiptoe. And like, it looks fine. It looks like the kind of, dramatic thing that a lot of queer stories get told as, which is why I don't engage with a lot of it. It's just not my genre. Like, the only reason I'd watch something like that 9 times out of 10 is because it has queer content. And sometimes I'll end up liking it, like It's a Sin. But other times I'll be like, if this wasn't queer, I wouldn't even be watching this right now because it's just not for me. So it's not something I was really paying attention to. But in the lead up to release, I came across a piece in The Guardian where Davies talks a little bit about it. And there's a couple things I feel the need to say. Now, I have no doubt of the strong good intentions that Davies has with this. And I have no doubt of the personal connection. The core story appears to be, based on the trailer and what I read in the article, is that Alan Cumming is playing sort of an aging gay man. His neighbor is homophobic, but also one of that neighbor's sons is probably gay and his dad doesn't know. And the growing tension, as his dad is the kind of person who views, gay people as predatory, as grooming, and is not, he will go search online for what is said about gay people and gay lifestyle before he will talk to his gay neighbor. And that's a perfectly valid story to tell. And I don't doubt the very strong personal connection Davies has to that. Like, he's watched in his lifetime as his queer works and his gayness got a certain amount of celebration with stuff like Queer as Folk. And, It's a Sin was a period piece, even though it dealt with a lot more of the struggles. This is set in the modern day. He's watched in real time as the gains and the recognition and the acceptance have rolled back. And I do not doubt that there's a lot of frustration and a lot of anger that comes out of that. And I think channeling that into an artistic work is a good thing. And he's giving himself the tricky task of trying to have Clive, the homophobic neighbor, not necessarily be sympathetic, but to be as fair to the character as possible, not paint him as a one-dimensional monster, which, if you balance that just right, can actually make the monstrousness even more terrifying, because you're like, oh, yeah, that is a fully formed human being, and he's still like this. They've got David Morrissey in the part, and I think he has a good shot at getting it, nailing that. So again, all fine, except there was one specific thing that came up in the Guardian article that made me kind of re-examine the whole thing. And this is something that I need to get my thoughts out on, because otherwise it's going to eat into my brain. And I want to get them out now because, as I said, this series is premiering tomorrow. And I think if I wait a week to talk about this, like on the main channel, then I'm going to be in a situation where I will be viewed as being unfair to the things he said because I haven't watched the show that he's promoting, when my thoughts are about what he said and pretty much nothing to do with the show. But I don't want that hanging over, what I have to say. I just want to be able to say it. And I want folks to know that I'm not saying this show won't be good. I'm not saying this show won't be worth seeing. Heck, I might even think it's really good, and maybe it'll even be presented in a way to assuage some of the things I'm about to say. But I need to say them now, because apparently there is a recurrent character named Stephanie who is gender critical. In and of itself, that's fine. You're already showing and depicting various forms of bigotry. Sure, throw that in there. Except she's a friend of Leo, the lead gay character, effectively the hero of the story, played by Alan Cumming. And in bringing that up, Davies said something that really gave me pause. He said, "I wanted all sorts of voices in there. I've got friends who are gender critical. It's only online you end up screaming and shouting and being attacked by them. In real life, you have a chat and we all kind of sigh and put up with each other. That's how the world works. It's actually how the world is ceasing to work." I think the sentence that really got me was, in real life, you have a chat and we all kind of sigh and put up with each other. That's how the world works. No, Russell, even with your following sentence acknowledging it's not really working like that anymore, that's how your world works. That is how your world of prestige and privilege of an established and respected professional member of the entertainment industry in your country, that is how your world works. And look, I'm not actually bashing him just on the premise that he is friends with some gender critical people. It is, I'm not going to lie, disquieting to me that he is, but I'm not going to condemn him for that alone, because while I have in the past talked about Stephen Fry's public and acknowledged relationship with J.K. Rowling, and I have called him out on that, not necessarily for maintaining the friendship, but for, at least at the time that I talked about it, I understand that he's come to a better understanding since then. But at the time I talked about it, basically, trying to have this situation where it's like, oh, I support and want to help trans people, but I'm also friends with her. I'm like, you can't do both. Not for who she is in that conversation. You actually can't do both. But that is a public thing. Davies doesn't name anybody. We don't know who these friends are, and frankly, it's not our business. He is allowed a private life, and he is allowed within his private life to make his own call about what is or isn't a make or break for him, and whether or not he feels like ending what might well be a lifelong friendship with someone over disagreeing on this one thing. That's his call to make, and I'm not here to judge him for it. I am going to judge him for the words he said, though. Because while there is some truth, at least in the notion that it's worse online than it is in person, there is truth to that. I've spoken to that usually in fandom conversations, because I've mentioned that at times when I've gone to Gallifrey 1, which is a Doctor Who convention, there are times I've gotten into conversations that were polite and calm with people who I do not doubt hold the same general opinion of the show and what they think is good or bad about the show as the people who scream at me online and call me slurs. I'm not saying the people who I was having real life conversations with would necessarily have done that as well, but I can recognize that in person, you will usually have a higher degree of respect from someone who is looking you in the face. That is true. But that's not more real than what they put online. I think that is a trap he has fallen into. This idea that, oh, we scream at each other online, but then in person we're fine, and that's more authentic. No, it's not. The politeness, the decorum is a societal expectation. And online, that expectation is gone. Does it result in people behaving in ways they would not behave in real life? Yes, but that's not necessarily because they've gone further than they have a desire to online. It's because in real life, there are consequences they would not face otherwise. I think it is foolish to presume that the way somebody behaves in a consequence-free environment is somehow less authentic than the way they behave in an environment where there are consequences to their actions, and that holds them back. So I think that's his first mistake in what it is he's saying. But to circle back, in real life, you have a chat and we all kind of sigh and put up with each other. Again, I'm sure that is literally true of your life, Russell. I'm sure that it is. And I'm not trying to say you don't have a right to depict your life experience, but when it comes to what is happening to the trans community with gender critical people in specific, you don't know what you're talking about. And I know that he did consult with a trans writer. He consulted with Juno Dawson, who he knows from working on Doctor Who, about the portrayal of the trans characters. It doesn't mention whether or not he asked her thoughts on the portrayal of the gender critical characters, or if indeed he consulted an actual gender critical person because he wanted to be fair to them as well. I don't know if any of that is the case. But in my mind, if you are having a sympathetic character who is friends with the leads, and again, maybe it will be confronted in the show, I don't know. At the time of my speaking, I do not care. If you are having someone with those views who is generally, in terms of the narrative, presented as someone we are intended to like, and they are not truly challenged on those views, it's just like the topic of conversation that your main character voice is like, oh, she's weird about that. Like, you are being dismissive of what it is that is happening to trans people in your country and in mine. There are too many names for trans people who have been killed recently. In the last year, definitely, probably in the last 6 months. So when you present this story about the struggles of a white cisgender gay man, and in an interview say, this isn't exclusively a gay problem, but nevertheless, we are an easy focus for it. Whatever this anger is, we're a target. You are not the first or most prominent target. The gay population is being targeted because it's expanded past the original targets, which were trans people. I don't think he is ill-intentioned in anything he wrote, produced, or has said. I do think that he is suffering from a thing that affects, honestly, potentially anyone with any level of privilege. And understand, having privilege in and of itself is not a crime. And it doesn't make you a bad person. Even failing to recognize some of your privilege doesn't necessarily automatically make you a terrible person. But you know what it does make you? It makes you a really frustrating one. That you, from your position of prestige as a showrunner for a brand new series, are talking in an interview about how hard it is for gay men right now with, a story in which you also decide it's okay to have one of your sympathetic characters be gender critical. And while I don't know the extent to which Stephanie appears, from what's in the article, it looks like she's just a side friend character to Leo. So she's probably not going to get the kind of examination that David Morrissey's character of Clive is going to get. You're just going to have her there being gender critical and having it be okay that she's in the room with our friends, with our allies, with us. And it's not. And it's not your place to say that it is. I don't want to hold this against Russell long term. I don't think he's incapable of learning, and I don't think yelling or swearing at the man is going to help anybody other than just vent some sense of catharsis, because we feel real impotent right now because laws are being changed and our rights are being taken away. And in your own country, trans people literally can't safely go into the bathroom that they should be able to. Trans men and trans women, none of them. And trans men who pass as cisgender men are being pressured to just use the men's room.
By telling trans men they should use the male toilet because they present more masculinely, despite that being the ruling that we should use the female toilet because apparently that's what we are, you're asking trans men to criminalize themselves for your comfort.
That's the state of things in your country right now because of gender critical people. And if you are still friends with some of them, and I'm sure some of them, honestly, in a personal interaction, especially if you've got history, are probably lovely people that you have a wonderful relationship with. But the way you talk about it in this interview, regardless of how it gets depicted in the show, gives it the merit of being just a difference of opinion. And it's not. It's not. If you had someone who was your friend and you know they were also friends with someone who thought that gay men were an abomination and their lives should be criminalized, would you still feel like you could just have a chat and sigh and, oh, we all get along? Would you? Truly, would you? Because I think if you look in your heart, you realize you couldn't. You could try. You could try to gloss over it. I bet you couldn't. So don't ask us to. It's just frustrating to see a man whose work I respect, whose politics I largely respect, and who has made public statements in support of not just queer people in general, but trans people in specific, that were wonderful things to hear. It's still frustrating to see his position of privilege that shields him from the full reality of what is happening to people he shares community with say some of these things. And again, don't hate on this man. He said some stupid things. That doesn't mean his work doesn't have value. It doesn't mean he deserves your harassment. What it means is that more than ever, you need to find actual trans voices and boost them. Because even when the best intentioned of our allies try and tackle the things going on with us, they don't know what they're doing. They're trying, but they don't know what they're doing. Boy, I wish I could get out to LA and see Again Mia Moore's movie. Boy, am I sure looking forward to, Teenage Sex and Death at Camp Miasma. Boost as many trans stories told by trans people as you can right now, because even when our allies try and incorporate us into their stories, much less tell ours, it's not enough. We need a voice. Boost us and let us have our own damn voice. Thank you for listening. Not the most uplifting topic, but if you stayed to the end, I really appreciate you. And this is normally the sign-off that I use for the other channel, but this was a heavier topic, so I'll do it here. Please remember that no matter what, even if you're somebody I find frustrating, even if you're Russell, you're beautiful, you are valid, you are loved, and just be well, be safe, and be kind. Thank you. And now to thank my highest supporting patrons: Robin Moore, Jared Boyce, Zubin Lutfula, Auntie Kate 808, Mira G, Angry Casperl, Dave Hall, Snark Shark, Oliver B, Mystic Shadow, Sean Miller, Welsh Wrestling Geeks, Melissa Pedersen, Becky Sparks, Twilord, Tracy Scrabbit, Pal Barabajago, Magdalena, and Sir Didymus is my favorite. Additionally, to thank some folks from the lower tiers of support, Lee and Andy, Gavin Hinden, and I Am Orcus. We have some new friends. We have Peppercorn and... where'd the other one go? Where'd you go? Coriander has gone behind my head. They are very young and they haven't been integrated with the other rats yet, but soon. Okay, yes. Maybe you weren't quite camera ready.